Hello everyone, I'm going to be starting a new series that focuses on the weak areas of tanks and also the strong points. In terms of armor, that is. I'm going to be taking a look at tier 5 and up, and I plan to get through all the tanks on all the nations by the end of this series. Premium tanks, everything. Premium tanks that are at least available for viewing on Tank Inspector. We'll take a look at the armor layouts and tips to get through the armor of those really tough vehicles they may be having troubles with. So without further ado, we're going to start on the Russians. And now we move on to the heavy tanks. The KV-1 has 75 whole armor on the front and the sides, with 70 in the rear. With the upgraded turret, you have 110 millimeters all around. So let's go see what Tank Inspector says about the heavy tanks. The mighty KV-1 is not that mighty if you know where to shoot it. Of course, if you're shooting down here, you're going to have some high penetration. That isn't commonly seen with tier 5s. 156 upwards of 160 is needed to get through the bottom. But move up a little bit, you got a small patch going along right here. So pretty much between these two connecting joints, if that's what you want to call them, is weak. 80 millimeters of armor should be able to 80 millimeters of penetration should be able to get through it. Any higher though, and you're back up into the hundreds. So face on, yeah, you're not gonna get through down here. That's really thick armor. 220 with the slope and everything. There are some tier 8s that can't even get through that. Move up a little bit more, back down into the 80s. Nothing too special. This flat part here, 80s again. This machine gun is a weak spot, but around it you need to be careful, because at 90, I saw 100 there, chance of wreck shape. But if you hit that if you can hit that machine gun, it's only roughly 60 to 65 millimeters of armor. So definitely try hitting there. Going on, it doesn't look like there's anything else special. Again, this hatch right here, 60, 40. Very easy to penetrate that if you know what you're doing. Keep moving on. This is not a weak spot. That is just a light. If you shoot at that light, you're still going to have the normal 80 to 85 millimeters of armor to go through. As for the turret, it's supposed to be 110 all around. It's pretty close, right? Yeah, if you're shooting at that angled 150. But look at this gun manlet. Very, very different armor values. Over here, you have 90 towards the bottom, 190 over on the sides here. So you need to be careful if you're shooting at this turret. These up there, those are weak spots, but they won't do any damage to the enemy that you're shooting at. So don't really try going for those. If the turret's the only thing you can shoot at, try shooting down here. That's your best bet, close to the turret ring. Get any higher, your chances go down quite a bit. going through, penetrating. But yeah, this gun mantlet's all over the place. 301 down here, 116, 232. It's different all around, so be careful. And if you're facing him head on, right over here above the tracks, don't shoot there. It's just spaced armor. It's not going to do anything. As for the sides, turret, yeah, pretty uniform all around. 115 required to get through. Down on the bottom, 75. Unless you're shooting at the road wheels where you're going to need a little bit extra. So if you have a gun with not much penetration, make sure you shoot in between these wheels here. And above these down here. Moving on to the back. Looks like there are a few spots where it does get 100. And then we drop back down 70s, 60s. And of course, this machine gun right here in the back, weak spot. Shoot there if you need to. It's probably your best bet other than down here. If you don't have 70 or more penetration, shoot at this machine gun turret. It's not really a turret, but it's a port. This right here won't do any damage, it appears. Maybe it will. But as for the turret, it's pretty good in the back, well rounded. So if anything, shoot right there. Artillery players shooting at the top, you got 40, 40, 30s. So arty, good for you. You probably can penetrate it if you hit the top of it. Do a bunch of damage. Now for the mighty KV-1S. Just like the KV-1, it has 75mm of frontal hull armor, but instead, it's a little weaker on the sides and rear with only 60mm. With the upgraded turret, it has 100mm in the front and 90mm on the sides and the rear. So the KV-1S. Yeah, it's not really as armored as it could be. Looking at the whole, 66. It's weaker than the KV-1s, at least in the lower portion. Up here though, you're getting into the hundreds, but you don't see anything crazy down here. So only 60s. Like the KV-1 where you had 80s, hundreds. Right here, it's again the same with the KV-1. All in the 80s, required to penetrate it. But with the KV-1S, this machine gun right here, it's not really a weak spot. It's the same as all of this around here. The same thing goes for this little viewport. So pretty much the KV-1S, this whole flat area right here is the uniform. It's in the 80s. If you can, shoot there. But right here, you could probably penetrate, but you may get some unlucky bounces if he's angling. Depends. Up here, this hatch, it's only 100 roughly. You can probably penetrate it easily. For the turret, again, has that strong mantlet that we see in many of the Soviet vehicles. Some places easily 200 into the areas where tier 8s can't even penetrate. 283. There are some tier 10s that can't do that. 400. Wow. So yeah, don't shoot at the mantlet. pretty good chance you're gonna bounce. If you have to shoot, shoot up there. Look at the sides. Turret, yeah, pretty much around 100 all the way around. It's gonna be a little bit tougher to hit the hatch on top. It's a small target and it's 150 millimeters if you do hit. 60s on the side right here, easy. At this point, at this tier, anything can go through that. Now on the bottom, again it's 60, except when you hit these wheels, and it goes up to 100, 108 on that 60s. On the back, 90s, 60s again, 60s. Turret, you could probably get through that. 100 if it's really sloped, 120s, or you could just shoot at the hatch again. This machine gun is a weak spot compared to the rest of the back of the turret. It's only 80 millimeters, but again, if you're like in a tier 4, you may have troubles even penetrating that machine gun. So I would recommend shooting down here. Be careful, there are some areas where it will ricochet. So mainly right there, where it's 60 to 70. So that pretty much wraps it up for the KB1S. I would think it's safe to say that KB1, it's better armored for its tier. KB1S is pretty much a repeat of the KB1, except you're up a tier higher. You are a little bit weaker. You are not made of armor, so you need to watch yourself. The main thing you got going for you is your gun. Don't rely on your armor. Tier 7, we have the IS with 120 millimeters on the front whole armor, 90 on the sides, 60 on the rear, and it looks like both turrets have 100 on the front with 90 in the sides and the rear. Now the IS is a completely different story. You get the same gun from a KB1S, but you get much better armor too. Looking at the front, we're just going to start at the lower plate and go right up like we have been doing. 128s, 120s. Now in World of Tanks it says it has 120 millimeters of whole armor. Yeah, it's staying true to that. It's pretty much 120s all the way around. 120s plus. Some areas you have 150s. So shooting an IS from the front, definitely do not shoot right here. That's your 140s. It's angled. There's even some chances of ricochet. If anything, shoot at that lower area here or right here. It's your best chances of doing any damage. Especially on the side here, 240. Shoot over there. Same thing on the sides there. And right here, it's around 120, 130s on the side. If you can penetrate that, go ahead. Shoot right there. But if you can't, definitely should be shooting down here. The turret, yeah, just don't shoot at the gun mainlet. And again, this hatch on top, very weak, only 100 millimeters. Easily go through that. But for the turret though, that's gonna be a little tough. 150s, 70s, 200s, depending on where you shoot at. But most likely you're gonna bounce, depending on what gun you have as well. And it looks like got a well, we'll just keep going on. The sides of the tank, that hatch again becomes a little harder to hit, as we saw on the KB1S. Requires 123 penetration now. And the sides, for the most part, are weak. And definitely do not shoot around here. That's part of the gun mantlet. Very high armor values right there. Going along the sides, 93. As you move up towards the front, it gets thicker. So pretty much this box right here, we're going to draw a line right down here. From here over here, it's fair game. Here over here, you may have troubles. For lower part, 90, it looks like. With the wheels, you're looking at about 130. So be prepared for that. For the rear, yeah, 70s. Down here it's 90s, so it's going to be a little tougher. For the turret on the back, around 100 depending on what angle you're shooting at. Also hit that top hatch. Machine gun, it's not that much of a weak spot, still 100 millimeters. So your best bet's going to be shooting this plate down here. Be careful. These flaps won't do anything. They're spaced armor, as you can see. Move over a little bit, you get your armor values back, 70s. So back again, right along here. And that pretty much covers it for the IS. Hello everyone, I'm going to be starting a new series that focuses on the weak areas of tanks and also the strong points. In terms of armor, that is. I'm going to be taking a look at tier 5 and up. Armor on the front and the sides with 70 in the rear. With the upgraded turret, you have 110 millimeters all around. So let's go see what Tank Inspector says about the heavy tanks. The mighty KV-1 is not that mighty if you know where to shoot it. Of course, if you're shooting down here, you're going to have some high penetration. That isn't commonly seen with tier 5s. 156 upwards of 160 is needed to get through the bottom. And I plan to get through all the tanks on all the nations by the end of this series. Premium tanks, everything. Premium tanks that are at least available for viewing on Tank Inspector. We'll take a look at the armor layouts and tips to get through the armor of those really tough vehicles they may be having troubles with. So without further ado, we're going to start on the Russians. And now we move on to the heavy tanks. The KV-1 has 75 whole